Day one of Utah football. Spring ball is officially in the books. What did we learn from the first practice? We're talking about it on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, an official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit fanduel.com/locked on today to get started. My name is Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. On today's show, we're talking all things spring ball, but want to remind you guys, if you're new to the channel, please like, subscribe, support the show. We are nearing in on 1,000 subscribers. It'd be a huge milestone for this channel to reach. So can't thank you guys enough for your support and all you do, and also would love to interact with you guys on social media. You can follow me at JT or hit us up at the channel at Locked On Utes on Twitter. So spring ball is back. Today, the media got to see the last 20 minutes of spring practice and talk with some of the coaches and the players after. I was able to speak with Mikey Matthews and also Miki Suguturaga, and we'll talk about how my conversation with them went a little bit later on. But first, just got to start with general thoughts. First of all, it was so great to be back. I thought about that even as I was walking up. You start talking to the other media members. I ran into Jay Catch, who's someone I used to call some of the games on KSL Sports Rewind with, and it was just great being back up at the facility. Then you make your way over to the practice field, and it was just great to watch the team be out there. Football is back, and I will say it's kind of funny that it is spring ball because, look, I know you guys are used to spring looking like this, but whenever I was back played spring football, that was it in Texas, and obviously the weather is a little bit different in the springtime in Texas than it is for the start here. I asked even Mikey Matthews about it, and he said, "Yeah, this was the coldest practice or just in general football related activity he had done." And but he did get some reps today, and we'll talk about him in a second. First thing that was really nice is when we walked in right away, we saw Brandon Rose in, which that's one of the big things is we're going to see a lot of Brandon Rose and Nate Johnson. Bryson Barnes will get reps, but Kyle Whittingham said they know what Bryson Barnes is, so they really want to find out what Nate Johnson and then that Brandon Rose are, and that makes a lot of sense when you got two younger guys still vying to compete. We all like Kyle Whittingham's right. We know what Bryson Barnes is. So that's where it's a great opportunity for Nate and then Brandon Rose also to be able to evaluate their stock. And Brandon wasted no time because it's funny how these things work out, right? Like just right when we walked in happened to be the time when Brandon Rose was in, and Brandon Rose had a great throw to open up really media availability, finding Vele in the corner of the end zone. It was nice to see. One thing that is worth noting for what we saw today was it was helmet with no pads, and you could hear the coaches yelling numerous times to make sure everyone stays up. They wanted to make sure everyone stayed clean, that everyone avoided injuries on the first day of spring practice, and that's what you want, right? Spring practice is all about development, getting better, and you can't do that if you get hurt. So we will see this team put on the pads obviously more and go a little bit more full speed, and they were flying around after the snap, and there was no tackling. Guys were just filling holes, and you could hear the pads, not the pads, you could hear bodies hitting, colliding a couple times, maybe some helmets hitting, I'll say. But yeah, they were definitely trying to be. It was not like 110% on the field out there. Like I said, they were still going at it a little bit, but nothing too crazy. But it was nice to see Rose get the throw. Like just for example, though, all the quarterbacks they did have time. Like if they wanted to, there wasn't really yes, guys broke through in pressure, but it wasn't like they blew the play dead. You could run around, make something out of it, or time to throw in the end zone. But I will say I thought both Brandon Rose and Nate Johnson did a really good job of the pressure did break in, kind of moving, drifting away from it, or also just getting the ball out before that pressure could break in. So credit to both of those guys. So yeah, Brandon Rose really kicked it off with a nice throw to Vele. Not long after that, we saw Cole Becker come out, kick a field goal. Kyle Whittingham did say that there is not a kicking competition. This is Cole Becker's job. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's a guy who accomplished a lot, obviously, with Colorado. He was 4 for 5 on field goals between 40 and 50 yards last season, or 40 to 49 yards, I should actually say, I believe. And when you get a guy coming over transfer like that, you're going to give him the job. And I will say, field goal kicking was a little bit of a struggle for these today. They were 2 of 4 overall. Now, a couple of those were pretty far out, but one of them we did get a doink on one of them, and the other one was just a little bit of short. But that wasn't all by Becker too. There were other kickers rotating in, but Becker himself was 1 for 2. He was the one who had the second doink, but he did make the first field goal of practice. Some of the other things that stood out, Nate Johnson. I talked about Brandon Rose a little bit in the throw he made. I thought Nate Johnson looked really good. He had a couple nice throws over the middle to a few had one to Vele. Vele made an incredible, really nice catch on one too. And that's a nice thing you see with a guy like Nate Johnson is look, he's a guy who very well may be starting the first game of the season because of the Cam Rising injury. And Coach Whitt reiterated today, hey, this is Cam's team, but he's not getting the reps out here. So this is where it's a great opportunity for these guys to come in, be ready to go and battle it out and win the job, win the backup job, and have a chance. This is not what Coach Whitt said, but this is just obviously what's evident with winning the backup job. Have a chance to maybe be the guy against Florida because we don't know if Cam Rising's going to be ready. So I thought Nate looked really good too. He had one run down the sideline where it's kind of like a bootleg. He rolled out to the right, and I want to say it was Makai Cope was pretty well covered in the end zone, so he just took off, and you could just see the speed. Just he was flying down the sideline. It was fun to watch too. I think it was him and Medlock were kind of joking around with each other after Chew chirping a little bit. That's one of the things you love about football, right? Is the competitive juices, the flow, everything. It's one of the things that always made practice when you get to joke around and kind of go at your friends back and forth in that competitive atmosphere. So that was fun to see. But yeah, I thought Nate looked really good. As I said, it was good to see him get to let it rip a little bit. As look, obviously we just saw him run the ball a lot in games last season, and I think everyone's really excited to see what he can do. That's what and a couple looked good in the outside, but it was just better over there too. So yeah, a lot of credit to Nate, as we mentioned. Also, apologies if we're having any technical difficulties right now. We should be good, but I had a little stream thing pop up for a moment. Anyways, as we continue on with this. So, yeah, Nate looked really good. Brandon Rose also looked very good. So, it's going to be fun to watch and see how that battle plays out. And we very well will probably see them, those two get the majority of the reps in the spring game. So, I still feel like this is going to end up being Nate Johnson's job, but it's going to be fun to watch and see how it does play out because both guys got a lot of work with the ones out there. And speaking of the ones, we did get our first look at what appeared to be Utah's first offensive line. So right now it's Satao Laumea at left tackle, which I was a little bit surprised at for those of you who have listened to this channel now. Keaton Bills at left guard stayed there. Jaron Kump at center. We thought about him being maybe in the mix for tackle, but even Coach Whitt alluded to Kump is a guy who can play anywhere along the offensive line. So I guess we shouldn't have been too shocked that he stayed in that position and or that didn't stay in that position, but is a guy who's giving them run at center right now. Michael Mokafisi still at right guard, and Falcon Kalmatule at the right tackle spot. And look, in terms of Satawa starting at the right side last year, maybe they feel he's more ready for the left side. And that's one of the things that's great about spring ball is it gives this team the opportunity to work out the different guys and see if they feel like they're ready to take over and be the starting left tackle. And that's what Satao's gonna have a chance to do. Falcon's gonna have a chance to do. Also, speaking of offensive lineman, Spencer Fano was the second string right tackle during the practices portions we got to say, and he looked good. And he wasn't the only Fano out there. Logan Fano was wearing his helmet. He got out there. I believe he was operating with the twos as well. And it was just great to see him out there. He's a guy you can just tell from his physical profile. It's like that's going to be a dude for this Utah football team. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do once he gets kind of in the full swing and the full go of everything, and we get to see more of those. You know, as I said, padded. Once the guys really throw the pads on too, we'll get to see more of them. One last thought before we take our first break. I also want to mention is I already mentioned I've mentioned a couple of the nice grabs by Devon Vele. Now you can just tell he just looks very comfortable as this team's wide receiver one right now. Look, I think Money Parks could be in for a big year when Brant Keithy gets healthy. Obviously, he's going to probably take away from a lot of that and very well could lead this Utah team receiving yards once again after doing so the past couple seasons before getting hurt. But look, Devon came back to help raise his stock and continue to have a chance to do special things in college. Obviously, not just winning Pac-12 championships again, but Rose Bowls or wherever else this team has the potential to be able to go and take themselves. So I definitely was fun to see Vele out there. And like I said, you can just tell he just does a great job adjusting the ball, got really strong arms, and had a couple really good grabs. So it was good to see him out here. We are just getting started breaking down the first day of spring ball. As I mentioned, we got to see the first 20 minutes and then talk to Coach Whitt and a couple of the offensive players after. And we're going to continue to tell you about all of that we witnessed in a second. But first, I want to talk to you guys about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The tournament is heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to the points scored and threes drained. You guys can also include special bets like an exclusive 2x3, which is 2 3-pointers scored in the first 3 minutes, and do player props too: points, rebounds, assists, March Madness, the stretch run of the NBA season. It's a great time to head over to FanDuel. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So coming back in, as I mentioned, a couple other thoughts I had watching spring ball today. One nice thing was to see was we saw a lot of Justin Medlock, and he looked sensational out there. I mean, just to talk about a huge physical profile. Actually, before we jump into the defensive side of the ball, I want to give another thing on offense. Isaac Vaha made a nice catch over the middle. He looks huge. I mean, he's 6'6", 265, and looks every bit of it as well. I'll add, I was really impressed with the one play we really saw from him, and you could just see the depth of this Utah tight end room. There were a couple tight ends who made some grabs, and said it's definitely a special group of guys that Freddie Whittingham Jr., one of the best tight end coaches in the nation, has kind of cultivated and brought together. So as for any other guys on offense, before we take a look at some of the other guys on defense, another nice highlight was Jaquindon Jackson had a nice long touchdown on a wheel route. Got an opportunity to catch a couple passes last year. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if he finished this. I'm sure he caught at least one or two balls, but I do remember there were a couple games early on where he had a couple critical drops in passing down. So I'm sure that was something that was nice for him to be able to haul that one in. And the other thing I should say too is as soon as he caught it, you saw some of the offensive coaches get fired up. Like the energy that this team brings and practices with is, I think, one of the reasons that it's so attractive for guys to come here. Practices are not mundane, they're not boring, they're fun, they're energetic. You are competing and you're getting after it. And that is what a lot of these guys really enjoy. It's one of the things that makes it playing football so much fun is the competitive aspect of it, as I alluded to a little bit earlier. So it was great to see that energy flying around. And yeah, Jaquindon looked explosive. It's hard because, as we mentioned, they can't really tackle the guys. But there were a couple of carries he got, and he looks bigger too. He looks strong, a little bit stronger too. So I'm really excited for Jaquindon, and that was a great play to see him catch that wheel route. And that was a long pass too. I want to say it was 30 yards. Maybe it could have just been 20, but either way, big play from Jaquindon. So a lot of encouraging things for the offense. All right, now flipping it over to defense. One of the nice pleasant surprises was seeing Justin Medlock was officially the team's third linebacker. He was mostly the middle linebacker. Today it was him, Karene Reed, and Lander Barton were the three guys out there. As we talked about on last week's show, or actually I believe I failed to mention, was Leavani Dumuni cannot officially join this team yet because he's got the transfer thing, or excuse me, just the way Stanford does it with quarters. He couldn't leave school early. So he will join the team in the fall. But right now, Justin Medlock is there. And Medlock looked big and he looked fast. He was flying around the field, had a nice opportunity. I mentioned Nate Johnson had that nice run. Medlock would have met him on the sideline on that one too. So good job by Medlock finding the angle and being able to cut him off in that situation as you want to see your linebackers do. And Medlock is a guy who was able to keep his redshirt year last year. And I think he's a guy who's going to have a big year this year, or I should say, make some big plays. Maybe not a big year because I still think the starting linebacker is going to be Barton, Reed, and Demooney. But I think Medlock's going to make a couple key stops, and with the way injuries and everything piles up, I think we're definitely going to see him have to start one or two games this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Also, Connor O'Toole was a starting D end across from Jonah Ellis, so it was fun to get to see him out there kind of working through things. Good to see Jonah back out there. Jonah won a couple of his reps too. And then looking at the secondary, Zamiah Vaughn and JT Broughton were the two starting corners out there, and both did a good job and everything. We saw a couple nice breakups. Another thing that was really cool to see was Miles Battle. Miles Battle out there, just seeing him on the field, looks like an SEC corner, right? Whenever you say SEC any position, you expect bigger, faster, stronger, all those things. And look, I don't think he looked. I will say I don't think he looked like faster than all the guys out there, but he was definitely one of the longer corners that this Utah team now has. So I think he fits perfectly with his physical profile out there, and made a nice pass breakup. It was a close if it was a hold or not. I remember you could tell the tight end. I think he broke the pass up on, or maybe it was even Mackay. I'm trying to remember Mackay Cope now. I'm trying to remember, but you could tell they were drawing back and forth about what it actually was. But fun to see them battling back and forth. And no pun intended. But as I said, I really like Miles Battle and thought it was fun. And the last thing I'll close on for the defense too, I do want to mention is no Nate Ritchie out there, but Sione Vaki got a lot of run at free safety, and Cole Bishop was back there too. So good to see both those guys back there. And look, I know there's no Clayton Isabel. Coach Whitt even spoke to it too, but he's feeling good about the guys he has in this room. Like, this is a very good safety room, obviously, and I think there's a lot of reason for optimism that they'll be fine. There's a reason Isabel transferred, as we talked about. It's that you have so much depth in this room, so many guys that are vying for playing time, so many guys that deserve to play, deserve to get these opportunities overall. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what the safety group can do, because honestly, I do think that it's a very special group. I will add as well. I think these guys got a chance to do something really good overall. Also, I know I just took the headphones off. For those of you who are listening, you don't care obviously, but just a little bit loud tonight. So I'm like, I'm going solo. I'm taking the headphones off. But anyway, so that was what we saw on the field, and great to see the competitiveness once again. Just want to hammer that home. Whether it was the players talking back and forth, but all in good, like I said, all in good spirit. It's not like bad, no animosity. This is all just fun, competitive juices flowing out there. Coaches alike too. So great to see everything unfold there. And then after we got to talk to Kyle Whittingham. So first thing was Kyle Whittingham just in his press conference said day one, that's what he expects from, he saw what he expected from his guys. Just good to be back out there, everything. Things weren't perfect. You could tell by the way he was talking. It wasn't like he's like, oh yeah, this was flawless practice. That wasn't the vibe you got from him, but you could tell he was good with the way this first practice played out for this Utah team. The next thing he also brought up was the quarterbacks. He talked about how the main focus for the QBs will be on Nate Johnson and Brandon Rose, like we talked about, and they want to do that. That Matt Howard will get some reps too, but he's not really there yet. He feels like they want to make a decision on the 2 through 5 through the end of spring ball. He also said, now I like I said, I think they'll feel like, okay, this is our 2 through 5 right now. That's very fluid, and that is obviously going to change by the time fall camp rolls around. As I think Josh Newman did a good job sending out, and a lot of these quotes and questions were asked by the Utah media beat today. So you get Josh Furlong, Josh Newman, were a lot of the guys who were digging these quotes out that I'm going to be reading over here. So friends of the show who are normally on the Utah beat, as you guys know. So that was another thing there. I do want to say something about Bryson because look, as I said, Nate Johnson, Brandon Rose, they're the guys I'm really excited about because we don't know what they can be. I saw someone comment under something about how they want to leave Bryce as well to tie the game. Incredible time Utah football moment. Helping this Utah team beat Washington State on the road in Pullman. Not every backup in the pack could have done that. So Bryson is a very capable backup quarterback. He's a game manager. Yeah, it didn't go well against the Rose Bowl. Who played well in the Rose Bowl? Go the second half. Go watch the offensive line getting work. The receivers not really separating. Like these are things that happen. So it wasn't the reason the Utah was in this game was because of Cam. Even in the first half, he just kind of threw it up there, and Utah got like the one time Utah got bailed out by the pass interference penalty on an underthrown ball that Devon Vele had to come back to and try to make a play on. So it's just the things, like I said, Cam is unbelievable. Cam is a starting quarterback in the Pac-12 and one of the best ones, as we know. Bryson is one of the best backup quarterbacks, but when the other guys aren't, he's a backup for a reason. He needs the other guys to be there, help and support him. And that's why we want to see these other guys get the run to see if the Brandon Rose, the Nate Johnson can overcome when some of the other guys aren't playing up to their standard, maybe versus Bryson is more dependent on everything else going his way. But there are a lot of backup quarterbacks where everything can go their way and they still can't execute. I remember the Oregon State game. There was this past year, Rice Eccles. I forgot the guy's name off the top of my head right now, but if that quarterback had just made a couple plays, they very easily could have won that game. But instead, he threw, at least 4 interceptions. We know Clark had 3 of them, and another one was hauled in by RJ Hubert. So, yeah, I think Bryson is a very good quarterback, and I would like to see Nate Johnson start, or even Brandon Rose too. There's a lot of excitement around him, and I like I said, that only hammered it home for me today after being able to watch him in person for those final 20 minutes. But for me, when you're talking about Bryson, he's a very good backup, and I think absolutely deserves the opportunity to stay on this team. And he's gonna have a great shot to win the backup job and be start against Florida because he's already done a lot of great things in that role. Also, speaking a little more to what Coach Whitt said on the safeties, he just talked about that. Look, that Nate Ritchie did not participate today because Ritchie wasn't physically ready. He's still working through some things coming off his mission. Whittingham called Ritchie a known commodity. That's a quote from media practice today that was gotten by I believe the question was asked by Josh Furlong. Could have been asked by actually, I might have been asked by Josh Newman. Either way, one of the Joshes will give credit to for asking that question. But yeah, I don't think it's anything to worry about long term. I think Nate's just getting back in the flow of things, and I have no fear that he won't be ready to go by the time that August rolls around. So even if he's not looking like one of the 2 best safeties by the time, one of the 3 best safeties by the time spring ball comes to a close, I think that's fine. He's just getting used to it again. He's been serving his mission. It's a different physical regimen to get back into football shape. And it sounds like that's what he's adjusting to right now. So overall, a really fun first day of spring football. It was great being back out there. As I mentioned, great to see the guys out there. Always fun to see the surprises, whether it was a great play made by Brandon Rose, Jaquindon Jackson making that play, Nate Johnson making some plays, Justin Medlock flying around on the defensive side of the ball, getting our first look at Miles Battle too. So it was great just being back up there, and it's exciting that football is back and that we get to talk about the potential this team has to kind of grow and make those improvements. So it was really exciting. What was also exciting was I got to speak to a couple of the guys after spring ball was over in Miki Suguturaga and Mikey Matthews as well. I'm going to tell you about my conversation with both of those guys in a moment. But first, I want to talk to you guys about our friends at UCCU. It's the perfect time to open a low-rate home equity line of credit from UCCU. Over time, the value of your home goes up. As you make payments, the balance you owe goes down. The space in between is equity, and it's yours. A UCCU home equity line of credit can put that equity to work for you, like finishing your basement or yard and raising your home's value, or paying off high-interest loans and getting out of debt faster, or helping with college or weddings, or the peace of mind that just comes from knowing you have a low-rate line of credit ready for whatever, whenever. UCCU will also provide you with your very own home equity Visa card, giving you instant access to your equity. If you already have a home equity with another financial institution, just refinance with UCCU and save. To learn more or to start your application today, visit UCCU.com or stop by any UCCU branch. UCCU, love where you bank. All right, coming back in to close this one out. First, a couple brief things on my conversations with Mikey Matthews and Mickey Sukataraga. I talked with Mikey first. Look, Mikey's great. I mean, you guys, once you see clips or interviews or things, you guys are going to fall in love with Mikey fast. And Mikey did see some time with the ones today a little bit too, so that was really exciting. A lot of guys were mixing the ones. There were constantly guys coming in and out, on and off the field too. So you're going to hear that a lot of guys saw time with the ones because it's true. A lot of guys did see time with the ones, but it's great talking with Mikey. Talked about how he earned some very high praise from Kyle Whittingham too, who kind of spoke to his ability to. I believe there was some. I wish I had thought I had wrote it down in my notes, but I did not. He spoke a little bit to kind of the similarities to Britton Covey type. Josh Furlong tweeted that one out from earlier today, but Coach Whitt spoke very highly of Mikey Matthews and his shiftiness and his ability. And Mikey's really excited to be up here. You can tell he's been picking the guy's brains. So I think he's a guy who's going to be making plays for this team in the fall and well beyond, because he definitely has a skill set and he absolutely has the right attitude. And like I said, spend 2 minutes with the guy like I did interviewing today, and you'll fall in love. Another guy that I had a great time interviewing was Mickey Sukataraga on making this transition from going from DN to tight end. And talking to him, he said that this was something the coaches decided first, and he wasn't crazy about the idea originally, but sees that it could be the best thing for the team. So this is something they're he didn't say this was final to me. He did say that this is something they're trying out and still looking at and into. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it does go over for him while he's spending this time at tight end, what he thinks about the position. He did say the one thing that appeals is obviously catching touchdowns, just making plays in the passing game. And he understands just through his physicality, he feels like there's some things from playing defensive tackle they can at least take a little bit. I mean, obviously he's been watching film on offenses and what they're trying to do, and now he's the one who's going to be on offense watching film on defenses. So his understanding of both sides of the ball, he thinks, will help him. This is the first time he's played offense, he told me, since middle school, so that'll be the fun adjustment for him. And I'm interested to see how his hands are. We didn't see him catch a ball or anything today, but either way, it was great talking to Mikey and Mickey, both outstanding players and guys that, look, if you guys don't love Mickey already, you definitely should for what he did for this Utah football team last year. And Mikey's going to win you over really fast. My opinion, it'll probably come in the spring game, but you guys will hear a lot of quotes from other people who interview him too. And you're going to see why he's a very popular name. But either way, a great first day of spring practice for the Utah football team. Utah football working on three-peating as Pac-12 champions, something the Utah Gymnastics team recently did. And because of that, they now have a great opportunity to earn their NCAA regional berth, and they'll be going to Los Angeles, where they'll be taking on, in their session one, they'll be taking on Auburn, so SUNY Lee, and then Southern Utah and Washington. And then session two at the same site is UCLA, Missouri, Stanford, BYU/Boise. Utah, the 5th seed overall in the tournament. So here's how it works too for the regionals. The top 2 finishing teams of each session will advance to the NCAA regional final on Saturday, April 1st at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Then the top 2 finishing teams from the regional final will earn a spot at the 2023 NCAA Women's Gymnastics Championships in Fort Worth, Texas. That's on April 13th through the 15th. Utah Gymnastics is competing for their record 47th consecutive national championship appearance this season. Utah is the only program, if you guys can't tell by facial expressions, mind blown off that, the nation to qualify for every national championship. The Red Rocks have won 33 region titles, 30 NCAA, and have finished second the other 13 years. The Utes are coming off the program's 3rd straight Pac-12 championship, as we mentioned, marking the first time a team has won 3 consecutive Pac-12 titles since the league expanded in 2012. Conference title marks Utah's 10th title overall after the Red Rocks have now claimed 6 Pac-12 championships and all 4 Pac-12 regular season championships. So truly impressive stuff by Coach Fardham and his group. just sensational. And when you're a team as talented as they are, you're going to be recognized for postseason awards, and they were. The Red Rocks had four competitors earn all Pac-12 honors. Jaden Rucker on vault, Crystal Issa on beam. She was honorable mention on bars. Miley O'Keefe was on bars and beams, and Kara Aker on beam as well. Also, Miley O'Keefe won the Pac-12 Specialist of the Year, second year in a row that she notched that award. And also, shout out to Abby Brenner, who was named your 2023 Pac-12 Vault champion. That one was named back on Saturday, but want to give a little shine to it here. So, look, this gymnastics team is a powerhouse. There is no reason to think that Coach Farnham and the squad won't be able to return to nationals once again. And look, we know what the women's team gets to do when they take on LSU later this week. And we get the gymnastics team on Saturday, Utah football spring ball kicking in high gear, Utah men's team flirting around with some transfers too. So it's always a great time to be a Ute. It especially is here because there's so many great sports and everything going on. Also, I don't remember if I ever gave him a shout out at the time, but shout out to the ski team as well for taking home another national championship back when they did. Truly a powerhouse program, and it's incredible that the Utes have a couple powerhouses because said gymnastics, what football's becoming a Pac-12 threat, the women's basketball team kind of molding themselves into one too. So really fun to watch and see how everything plays out. But once again, best luck to the Utah women's gymnastics team. And look, with how outstanding they've been on all four events, being bars, beam, floor, and vaults, I have no doubt that they're not going to make it their 47th straight consecutive national championship appearance. It's an unbelievable feat, and one that I don't doubt that they are going to not achieve. So it'll be fun to see how it plays out, and it'll be fun to see how the rest of the week plays out. Make sure you guys keep it here at Locked On Utes, as we'll be talking about more spring ball reactions. Tomorrow's show, I have Spencer McLaughlin on. We talk about the Utah quarterback 2 battle. We preview that a little bit more and talk about who we think is going to eventually win the quarterback 2 job before spring ball is wrapped up. Change the practice. So I'll just leave it there with that. And then the other thing just want to mention as well is later this week we'll be talking about Utah's second spring practice. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And on tomorrow's episode, we'll also be talking about some of the other question marks amongst the other Pac-12 contenders, because if Utah wants to win the Pac-12, they're going to have to go through those teams. So you got to know your enemy in order to beat them. So we'll be talking with Spencer about all that great stuff tomorrow. Also, if you guys are in the market for a second listen every day, we recommend you check out the Locked On College Basketball podcast, where you have hosts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bringing everything you know on and off the court. Plus, you can hear from big name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. March is full of madness, and Locked On College Basketball has you covered for all of it. Even if your bracket is busted, what a great weekend of games we just saw. And it's going to be another exciting week this Thursday through Sunday when we get the Sweet 16 in action. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Thank you guys again for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow for some more Locked On Utes.